8%. Totally passive. Wire the money, do nothing, collect a check. That's the promise on almost every real estate syndication pitch deck in 2026. And it is one of the most seductive sentences in all of investing. But here's the thing, nobody on that call wants to slow down and explain. The word passive is doing an enormous amount of hiding. Before a single dollar of that 8% ever reaches you, it passes through 3 different sets of hands. Now look, I'm not here to tell you syndications are a scam. They are not. They're a real, legal, sometimes excellent way to own a piece of a building you could never buy alone. Dan owns a small multifamily and a couple of rentals. He's scaling, and he's got $253,200 sitting in an account right now, getting pitched these deals almost every week. So he did the homework, and what he found wasn't fraud. It was something quieter. The math on the deck is real. It's just not the whole math. Here's what we're covering. Promise 1 is the anatomy of that passive 8%, the fee and promote waterfall, and exactly what gets taken out before your share. Promise 2 is the 2 facts the deck whispers instead of says. Your money locked up for 5 to 7 years, and the gate you have to clear just to get in the door. And Promise 3 is the door almost nobody points you toward. The version of shared deal investing that keeps you in control, the one nobody pitches, because nobody earns a fee sending you through it. We'll get there. Stay with me. One quick note before we dig in. This is educational, not legal or financial advice. Real estate and securities laws vary by state, and every deal's paperwork is different. Talk to a licensed attorney and your own financial professional before you wire a single dollar. I mean that. Now, let's open the deck. Promise 1, the waterfall. Picture this. You write a $50,000 check into a value-add apartment deal. The sponsor, the general partner, the GP, promises you an 8% preferred return. Sounds like a savings account that pays 8. It is not. Does that actually feel passive to you? Here's what really sits between the building's income and your pocket. The first hand is fees. Before the deal even closes, the sponsor usually charges an acquisition fee. Across the market, that runs 1 to 3% of the purchase price. On a $5 million building at 2%, that's $100,000 paid before the property collects a single month of rent. Then, every year you're invested, there's an asset management fee, commonly 1 to 2%. And when the building finally sells, there's often a disposition fee on the way out, another 1 to 2%. None of that is hidden in the legal sense. It's all right there in the documents. But most investors never add it up. These fees come off the TOP, and the sponsor gets paid whether the deal wins or loses. The second hand is the split, and this is the part that, to its credit, JP Morgan lays out in plain steps in its own explainer on real estate waterfalls. First, return of capital. Then your preferred return. Then, and this is the move people miss, a catch-up, where the sponsor takes a chunk to catch back up to you. And then the promote, the real profit split. Commonly 80-20 or 70-30 in the investor's favor, on paper. So your 8% preferred isn't a guarantee, it's a place in line. And here's the quiet part. That preferred often accrues. It piles up on a statement instead of landing in your account each month. You can see very little actual cash for years, while the number on the page says you're owed 8. Add the 2 hands together. Property income pays the mortgage and the operating costs first. Then the sponsor's fees come out. Then whatever's left flows down the waterfall. And only then does your share appear. Gross return is not the same as your return. And your return on paper is not the same as cash in your hand this year. Say that one twice. Now here's the part I want you to actually remember, because it's the whole video in one picture. I call it the 3 hands. Every dollar of that passive 8% passes through 3 sets of hands before it ever reaches yours. The fee hand, the split hand, and the third hand is the clock, which is exactly where Promise 2 begins. Promise 2, the 2 things the deck whispers. Whisper number 1, your money is locked. Most syndications are marketed on a 5-year hold. Plenty run longer, 6 years, 7, sometimes more. And unlike a public REIT or a dividend stock you can sell on a Tuesday afternoon, there is usually no exit, no monthly redemption, no annual window. So what happens if life happens and you need that $50,000 back in year 2? The honest answer from the sponsor is almost always the same. You probably can't get it. Any transfer needs sponsor approval, has to clear securities rules, and requires you to find a buyer for a sliver of a private deal. Good luck with that. This is the clock. This is the third hand. The pitch sounds like dividend income. The reality is closer to locking your money inside someone else's business and throwing away the key for half a decade. And one more thing about that lockup. If the deal hits trouble, a rate shock, a bad year, a repair nobody budgeted for, the sponsor can issue what's called a capital call, asking you for more money to keep the deal alive. Whether you're actually forced to pay depends entirely on the documents you signed. So read them, slowly, twice. Whisper number 2, the gate. Most of these deals are sold under a federal exemption called Regulation D, 506B, and 506C. Per the SEC, to invest, you usually have to be what's called an accredited investor. That means a net worth over $1 million, not counting the home you live in, or income over $200,000 a year on your own, $300,000 with a spouse. Now, most operators with real capital clear that bar without blinking. So here's the trade. Most of them never stop to think about. When you walk through that gate, you're stepping into a private offering, less standard disclosure, no public price you can check, and reporting quality that swings wildly from one sponsor to the next. The protections you take for granted in public markets get a lot thinner. The deal is not safer because you qualified. The diligence just quietly shifted onto you. So is the answer never touch a syndication? No. Let's be fair here. Because a syndication genuinely fits some people. It fits when you truly want labor-free exposure and you accept that lockup with your eyes wide open. It fits when you want a piece of an institutional quality building you could never buy alone with one check. And it fits for diversification. If your only other move would be dumping all $250,000 into one house, in one town, exposed to one set of risks. The strongest case for a syndication is honestly pretty simple. You value delegation more than control. If you never want to think about financing, leasing, repairs, or chasing a property manager ever again, then delegation is worth paying for. That's a real, honest yes. I won't pretend otherwise. But, promise 3, the control door. Here's the one almost nobody on a pitch call will ever point you toward. Because, again, nobody earns a fee sending you through it. If you're an operator and control actually matters to you, there are 2 versions of property ownership that keep the steering wheel in your hands. The first is direct out-of-state ownership with a team. You buy the property yourself, in a cash flow market, and you build a bench. A sharp local agent, a contractor you can trust, a third-party property manager who runs the day-to-day. You keep control of the leverage, the hold period, the refinance timing, the renovation scope, the tenant standards, and the exact day you sell. There's no outside GP, skimming acquisition fees, asset management fees, and promote off the top because you are the operator now. The catch is real, and I won't soft pedal it. You take on the responsibility, the decisions, and the risk of managing a team from a distance. Do it badly, and you'll wish you'd just been passive. Do it well, and you keep the entire upside the sponsor would have taken for himself. The second door is the one most investors have never even heard of. A TIC, tenant-in-common. Instead of buying a slice of a partnership the sponsor controls, each investor holds a separate, deeded, undivided ownership interest in the actual real estate. You're a real owner, on the deed, not a passenger in someone else's entity. Per a federal tax ruling from 2002, a TIC that wants the favorable tax treatment generally keeps the group to 35 co-owners, or fewer, and requires unanimous sign-off on the big decisions. Selling, leasing, financing, hiring the manager. And here's the part that makes operators sit up straight. Because a TIC interest can count as direct real property, it can qualify for a 1031 exchange. That means you can roll the gain from a property you already own straight into the deal and defer the tax, following the IRS clock. 45 days to identify, 180 days to close. A plain syndication LP stake usually can't do that. The trade-off? A TIC takes coordination. 35 co-owners who all have to agree can be slow, even painful, if the group isn't aligned. It is less passive than wiring a check and walking away, but you stay an owner, with control, and with the tax door wide open. So let's run the same $250,000 forward 5 years. 2 ways. Which one would you rather be? Path 1. You're the passive LP. You hand it to a sponsor, you collect whatever the waterfall allows. after 3 hands have taken their cut. You can't touch the money if you suddenly need it, and at the end, you get whatever the sale delivers, minus the disposition fee. Maybe that's a great outcome. Or maybe the deal underperforms and you find out, too late, that you were the last one in line. Path 2. You deploy that same capital as the operator, direct, or through a tick. You eat more work and more responsibility, no question about it. But you control every single lever. You keep the fees in your own pocket. You can use a 1031 to defer the taxes. And you decide when to sell. Same money. 2 completely different amounts of control over your own life. A few honest caveats now, because the math cuts both ways. A great sponsor with a great deal can absolutely out-earn a mediocre operator going it alone. Delegation to a true professional is worth real money. Direct ownership can go sideways fast if you overpay or mismanage a team 3 states away. And a tick can turn into a committee headache if your co-owners won't get on the same page. None of these is a guaranteed anything. Anyone promising you guaranteed returns in real estate is selling you something. And one last piece of context. Right now, in 2026, the apartment world is not a layup. Per Moody's data cited by the lender Arbor, effective rents actually slipped a little across 2025, and vacancy sat near 6.7%. The industry group NMHC shows financing conditions sitting just below neutral. Translation? Sponsor quality and honest underwriting matter more than ever. A rising tide is not coming to bail out a weak deal. So here's the bottom line. A syndication is not a meteoric income machine. It's a delegation vehicle. So is it worth it? That depends entirely on which kind of investor you are. You're trading 3 things: fees, liquidity, and control, in exchange for not doing the work. For some people, on the right deal, that trade is absolutely worth it. But if you're an operator with real capital and you actually like being in the driver's seat, don't let one soft little word talk you out of the 2 doors that keep you there. Read the fee schedule. Find the preferred and the promote. Ask exactly where the catch-up sits. Ask how you ever get your money back out. And before you wire $50,000 to a stranger's deal, at the very least, price out doing it yourself. The 8% on the deck is real. Just never forget whose hands it has to pass through first. If this helped, drop a comment with your capital bracket and whether you're leaning passive or hands-on. I'll tell you which door actually fits your situation. And next week, I'm breaking down the tick structure all on its own. How the deed really works, how the 1031 rolls in, and the one clause that quietly wrecks these deals when the group isn't aligned. You won't want to miss that one. That's it for today. Go read the fine print.